Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. And we are on to next chapter of Job. And I'm not seeing Chrissy. Is Chrissy not going to make it today?
No. She told me that she was sick today, so she will not be able to make it.
I don't want to be the only girl. I finally
well, not to make her feel bad or anything, but I did tell the patrons that we were going to have Chrissy Hansen join us. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you scammed the people. Okay, I see.
Yes.
And now she has made me a liar. That's going to just ruin the whole
I don't know.
rest
I
of the
feel
day.
like you're just lying.
Yes, people getting colds during this season.
Arn, there's an easy fix. Just put the thumbnail of the next show on this show, and you're good to go.
Is it? Is her name in the thumbnail too?
No, but the thumbnail for the next show says Arn with liar. So.
Okay.
Now, Lawrence, did you get your daily dose of autism?
You know what? I did actually. I got 18 vaccines earlier today.
Yes, but did you get your Tylenol today?
No, I did not.
I am never going to let you up on that.
I understand.
Tylenol the one...
And the funny part is when I left, actually, my dad needed help carrying down a fridge. So.
Lawrence is an idiot with back pain who refuses to take painkillers, so I'm going to make him miserable until he takes Tylenol.
I am fine,
now,
and just so you're clear, I'm already miserable. Okay, you don't need to help with that.
Yes, apparently physical misery isn't enough. I need to psychologically torture you into taking basic care of your body.
You don't do that until after you're married.
Well, I have not gotten enough. Yeah, anything to get that level of effort in. So I am going to go get a Tylenol for the headache you are giving me.
Okay.
And I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any commentary before we jump into reading Job 2?
Well, I guess this is where things get spicier.
Yeah.
I could say that things get spicier.
Yeah, if bad stuff happened to Job's surroundings in 1, now bad stuff will happen to Job.
Yeah.
Specifically Job, because, the man can get any rest.
Don't worry, Job gets very mad about it. He is going to... He's going to have words. Let's put it
He's
that
going
way.
to spit some facts.
Yeah. And... he's gonna have some friends try to basically have him be a little bit nicer, gonna try to reason with him, if that's what you want to call it. So but it's you can definitely tell Job is he is now emo, and he'll make it everybody's problem.
He's quite pissed. Quite pissed.
All right, let's get into it. One day, the heavenly beings came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser also came among them to present himself before the Lord. The Lord said to the accuser, "Where have you come from?" Because God is all-knowing.
And where did you go?
Yeah, the accuser answered the Lord, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down it. The Lord said to the accuser, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him on the earth. He is blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil. He still persists in his integrity, although you incited him against me to destroy him for no reason." Then the accuser answered the Lord, "Skin for skin. All that the man has, he will give up for his life. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." The Lord said to the accuser, "Very well. He is in your power. Only spare his life." So the accuser...
Of course, if you let him die, the fun is over.
The accuser went out from the presence of the Lord and inflicted loathsome sores on Job from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Job took a potsherd with which to scrape himself, and sat among the ashes. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still persist in your integrity? Curse God and die." But he said to her, "You speak as any foolish woman would speak. Shall we receive good from God and not receive evil? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips." And the sin obviously is just, saying, hey, there's no God, apparently.
Or fuck you
that's
for
not
killing all my
It-
kids.
the sin is to curse God, blaspheme. It's not saying that there is no God, basically.
Isn't that the same thing?
No, it's not.
No, because like it would.
And I think we had the discussion previously.
It does seem familiar.
Yeah.
Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all these troubles that had come upon him, each of them set out from his home. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Nemathite. They met together to go and console and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him, and they raised their voices and wept aloud. They tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. They sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great.
I'm going to be honest.
Very great indeed.
This is one of the few good things, I think, in this book, and one of the few good lessons I've actually heard pastors give on this book, is that when all this tragedy befell Job, his friends came and sat with him. And initially, they just shut the fuck up. They didn't start with the platitudes and the bullshit. They just sat and communed with him, recognizing that he was miserable and he had every right to be upset. And they were just with him. Like, this is absolutely what to do when someone in your life experiences tragedy. Be there for them. And don't try and force them into feeling better because you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that is a very useful message for Christians to learn.
Well, for everybody, but yeah, they do need a reminder.
So, do you got any comments, or we're going to move on to the next one?
You have two. You have two already.
All right, so Dr. Kip Davis says, "Good morning.
Who?
I have 2 streams today and another video to record this afternoon. Hence,
AKA more excuses.
I would join you, but I'm so important and busy, you know."
Well, Arne and I have 2 streams today, and I am recording, so it's no excuse. I told him already.
Then Silvio George Pantelimon, and I don't feel that I'm saying that name right, 1423, offers 25 Romanian lei and says, I like Job, but I hate how people misuse Job. My priest/teacher told us that it is okay if your child dies as long as you can replace him.
What?
That's one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard.
What?
Jesus Christ.
What? What?
He's not the first. There's this guy that has an adventure land in Alabama. He's been saying the same thing for 20 years.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby did one of his comedy strips where he said, where he's talking to his kids, and he says, "I brought you into this world. I'll take you out, make another one look just like you."
Yeah.
I mean, okay, just every parent in the 80s did say something like that, but they didn't literally mean it. And it's, oh God, it's one of the times that Ingersoll was right. Just when your kid when your kid is ill, when your kid dies, you don't want another kid. You can't replace them like parts on a car. A better looking one. You don't care what they look like. You want your baby.
Yeah. I'm very close. Someone in my family lost a child, and at 3 years old, and it took them a decade to consider having another child.
6 days in my family. So yeah, it's a pain we share, and I'm sorry, because that destroys your world.
Yeah. Okay, Tomer, you got anything to say about this?
Of course I do. Because if not, then your show will die. I'm the one who carries the show, so I am obliged to give. Yeah. Yes.
Tamer, your wit is matched only by your humility.
Yep,
Yes.
that's one way to put it.
I am the most humble person you'll ever meet, right?
Moses?
Yes. Okay. So verses 1 through 3.
One fine day. In the middle of
It
the
was
night.
a dark and stormy night. Yeah.
Two dead men got up to fight.
Okay.
Fine.
These verses are an almost verbatim repetition of 1:6 through 8, with Yahweh adding that Job still keeps his integrity, in Hebrew, ve'odenu machazik betumato, and accusing Satan with, quote, inciting me against him to destroy him for no good reason, end quote. Habel notes that the addition is most telling, quote unquote, since Yahweh seems to admit that he is vulnerable to incitement by Satan. He notes that incite, in Hebrew, shoot, normally carried negative overtones, as we see in 36:18, 1 Samuel 26:19, 2 Kings 18:32. Thus, quote, the image of God projected in the prologue is as ambivalent as that found in the speeches of Job in the dialogues. On verse 4, skin for skin, in Hebrew, ol be'ad ol. The exact origin and meaning of this proverb is unclear. Targum takes the skin as a metonym for limb. Thus, traditionals write that, quote, it is human nature that, when one sees a sword coming toward his head, he protects it with his arm in front of it, end quote, according to Rashi. Hakham suggested that the saying refers to a shield, since in antiquity shields were covered with leather, and thus, quote, skin of the shield for skin of a man. Habel writes that the first test...
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Habel writes that the first test did not affect Job's life, nephesh, but rather his skin, i.e. his possessions. Thus, quote, the Satan argues that by striking deep into Job's body with disease, the true character of Job's being will be exposed, and he will curse God for his capricious ways, end quote. Clines takes the proverb to mean something like an eye for an eye, i.e., quote, if Yahweh scratches Job's skin, it will be Yahweh's skin that is put at risk, end quote. Seow notes that a more compelling explanation is derived from the ancient marketplace, where barter was the norm. He writes, quote, in this view, the preposition be'ad indicates substitution of or exchange of goods or of equivalent value, as in Proverbs 6:26. Commentators point to a saying cited by Arab Bedouin in their transactions, ra'as bi ra'as, a head of cattle for a head of cattle, or the saying bita kima biti, a house for a house, from a legal document found at Ras Shamra. Similar expressions are found elsewhere in Akkadian literature. Eklam kima eklim inadin, he will give a field for a field, or alpam kima alpam, an ox for an ox, or the like. Thus, the cliché refers to a minimally acceptable barter, in this case, pelts of equivalent value. That would be a meaningless transaction involving neither loss nor gain, a mere token of an exchange, a safe bet. If so, the adversary's implicit challenge is for God to move beyond the farce of such a token act to something more substantial. Alternatively, the saying may suggest that Job will not be willing to accept the deal beyond what he has already given up. He has already lost his substance, quote unquote, including his children. Any losses beyond that will be unacceptable.
I want to call back to verse 2 because I can't let it go that Satan was walking up and down on the earth.
Yeah. So, like Tomer said, this was a virtual carbon copy of the stuff in the first chapter.
But he can't be walking if he was cursed to crawl in his belly all
that's
days.
Dude, Aaron's stuck in Christian brain.
Stop it, Aaron. You know perfectly well we've already you made a whole video about how the serpent isn't Satan.
I just have to remind people.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is why I keep trying to correct the horrible evangelical Christian interpretations that affect all of the way we perceive these texts, because it's just, you have to address them. Ugh. Anyway. Yeah, so he's stalking people, just, creeping around, staring at them from the shadows. I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Being dramatic.
I would say it might be slightly interesting to note that the preposition for the earth is in the earth. So he came from in the earth where he was walking in it. It doesn't say on the earth.
So I don't. I'm sure you guys know more about the Hebrew, but at least that's actually not a super uncommon thing in some languages.
Right, for prepositions not to match what we would expect in English. Yeah, that's true.
And wouldn't in the earth, if you're looking at it from a earth and heavens, the earth would be the realm of the earth, right?
Well, because they had different. They had varying cosmologies, but one of the big things is that there's I could have prepared this, but I'm definitely going to prepare it for a later episode. So there's a very common picture you'll see of the biblical earth, right? You're going to see this dome, you're going to see under the earth, you're going to see the realm of the dead, Sheol, right? Well, the Sheol's the would be properly the grave, right? But you're gonna see an underworld. You're gonna see this ocean that's surrounding it, and in the earth could also just mean the realm of the dead. So it could be referring to that, but it does not necessitate that. So they did think of inside of the earth. It's just
I'm just saying you could argue that it's a language implying that the people who wrote this didn't think of the earth as being something that people are on, but rather something you're in, like a snow globe as opposed to a planet.
Yeah. They had.
I can't wait.
They would kind of have layers to it, right? So they would talk about the levels of the earth and the levels of heaven.
I'm just saying, for people who argue that the Bible says that the earth is a sphere,
are wrong.
You could say that. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that. This sentence.
Well,
could
we
be...
knew that.
Okay, Ashbal Crucible says God is not bound by time, that He is in all times, past, present, and future. So God is at the beginning of time and at Judgment Day. Why would God make anyone He knows would be an atheist?
Because he's an asshole.
I think that's too simple an answer.
Yeah, but you notice how every time we run into one of these theological conundrums, if you just consider the possibility that God is an asshole, everything makes more sense.
Or, as George Carlin put it, maybe He doesn't give a shit, which would explain a lot.
Yeah.
And then Ashbal Crucible adds, it seems intentionally malicious if He will burn them forever anyway. Yeah. God knows in advance.
If you go in with the assumption that God is all-knowing, then yes. But as we have learned from reading this entire book so far, no, He's just not. That is there are some things He knows and some things He does not. And it depends on who you ask and when.
It's actually a really interesting study in the psychology of how gods and demagogues are made. Because the way we've looked at the Bible as it's written and trying to get an understanding of when various parts of it were written and tracing how the idea of God goes, it's not just that the idea of God expands, although of course it does. It's that there is an expectation around this unknown portion of life. And when the prediction fails, whereas in science you would say, oh, I guess our assumption must have been wrong in some way and go and you just warp the assumption and expand expand it to an additional excuse. And then you do that again, and you do that again, and you do that again, and you do that again, until this becomes this omnipresent, omni-everything, incoherent mess that you can't let go of anymore, because you've tangled so many excuses in it over the millennia that it's just taken on its own life. And we've seen it with conspiracy theorists. You see it with people who are still making excuses for the current Trump administration. The things that they are willing to believe about who's doing this and the global elite background, these massive convoluted explanations. When the very simple explanation could be, maybe this guy who lies all the time lied. They can't handle that.
On the apologetics thing. Well, it's not really pedophilia. I mean, there's a difference between 5-year-olds and 15-year-olds.
Oh my! I cannot believe this is where the fucking country is at now. Dude.
Yeah. Okay. There is a difference. One of them you should simply be taken out with a 9 mil, and the other one you should end up in the Brazen Bull.
Okay, Jojo Freelancer KUP says, Aaron, is Job a prophet in Christianity and Judaism? Because I think in Islam it is. Lawrence.
He is a prophet in Islam.
We brought this up last week.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah,
so
there's
not considered a prophet in Judaism. I don't know about Christianity, but Judaism, a prophet is like specifically like a job title of people that go out and
yeah. I'm surprised that I don't remember that, because I was going to have to ask Lawrence. No, I don't remember Job being a prophet.
Well, the thing is, they're in Islam, yes, but it's not like they list all the prophets in the Quran. Like a lot of this stuff is from Hadith, right? So they have like hundreds. They have hundreds of prophets. Like a lot of the Old Testament figures that we see that are not prophets in the way that you and I think of them are prophets in Islam. And they have hundreds.
I mean, it's almost like they use the word prophet more in the sense of saint, or what Jewish, or in Judaism, tzaddik, a righteous person, rather than like specifically a prophet or a navi in Hebrew.
The prophet is
like
a specific...
in Islam, Adam, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Ayub, Job. Yep. But also, I think they also have people like I think Jeffery is considered a prophet in Islam. I think
he would be.
John the Baptist is considered a prophet.
No, it's true. Islam seems to use the word prophet as a holy man or one who has an intercourse with God and is important to him. Whereas you could be that but not be a prophet, because a prophet in Christianity and Judaism is fairly similar. There's obviously some argument over who qualifies, but specifically someone who has received prophetic information from God and prophesies.
I mean, I guess it could be someone, someone who has spoken to God and received information from him about the future is a prophet in a sense, but they're not necessarily people who proclaim what the future will be to other people, which is what the title of prophet is normally used for.
And I'm sure we've got prophets that don't even get mentioned. Like Joe Bob, Lord of the Trailer Park, probably didn't even get in the Bible.
Yeah, well, they missed the deadline because nobody could write.
Oh shit!
There is an opinion in the Talmud, at least in Bava Batra 15b, that Job was a prophet. I mean, one of the prophets of the Gentiles.
Yeah. And Balaam, Job, and
yes.
Is there 2 more or just 1 more?
What?
Who are is it 3 or 4?
There are 7.
7.
Yeah, so 7 prophets prophesy to the nations of the world, and they are Balaam and his father Beor, Job, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Naamanthite, and Elihu ben Barachel the Buzite.
Oh, so characters in Job, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that does support the idea that Job is not a Jew. He is a righteous foreigner.
That's the Jewish tradition, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, doing his very best with the limited knowledge he has without the Torah, but is nonetheless very devoted and absolutely doing everything he can within his, sphere of knowledge, which is considered admirable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sphere of knowledge is
Oh, I
considered.
did have one thing about verse 4. So in verse 4, it says, God is saying to the adversary, to the Satan, he is saying, look at this man, he is so good. He fears God. Now, you could argue that like God wouldn't say that about himself. He wouldn't say he fears God. He would say he fears me. The Hebrew says Yireh Elohim, which is a fearer, or one who fears God, but you could translate it as one who fears the gods, because it's Elohim is the plural form.
Yeah, but at the time this would have been written, it just would have taken up the meaning God. But or you could just do because if we're talking about heavenly beings, like that also works, right? Because like as Chrissy pointed out the other
it could
week,
just be an expression. Yeah.
It could just be an expression
in
of
modern
devout.
times,
He's a devout, God's-fearing man.
In like modern Judaism, there's people don't really say this person is a Yireh Elohim. They say he's a Yireh Shemayim. He is a fearer of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the expression that's used. A lot more. Yeah. It's an expression for a person who is like, he's a God-fearer. He's not going to break the rules when no one's watching. He's an honest, upright person.
Yeah. I was confused when I found out how many people would do that. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, on verse 7, painful sores, in Hebrew, shchin. The word is also tested in Leviticus 13, 18 through 23 to denote a boil, which may be a sign of leprosy, in Hebrew, tzaraat. This had led many to identify the disease with leprosy. Hartley notes that Terrien suggests that a disease named pemphigus foliosius, since it comes on suddenly and becomes acute at once. Clines notes that a common identification of the shchin is elephantiasis, which produces swollen limbs and blackened skin. He writes, however, quote, "It is better to admit our ignorance of the precise melody." Quote.
I think that's a good option. Yeah.
That is. I respect that perspective.
Yeah, instead of trying to weirdly diagnose them with stuff.
Although,
who is it?
But I am getting the impression of some guy way back when going, "I am not an animal."
Yeah.
I guess that's an old movie. You haven't seen it.
That's
the Elephant Man. David Lynch.
Yeah.
Hello.
Who?
Yes.
Oh, that poor man. He suffered so much in his life. But the
I love him.
Yeah, that whole thing is leprosy, though, is something that appears to have been used as a catch-all for a number of different skin diseases. Yeah. And he's said to have had boils and scraped them with a potsherd. Not really sure why you would do that. Maybe that's the medical practice of the day. What do I know? But yeah, you're getting pustules on your body, on your skin, obviously. I don't think that's leprosy in the sense we think of it, but it is definitely a skin condition, at least partly. So
even the stuff in like the law code is just some unknown skin condition that people have.
Yeah, also the translation of leprosy is like modern translators being like, oh, it's probably similar to leprosy. So maybe in English leprosy doesn't necessarily mean the specific skin condition that we call leprosy, but the Hebrew word, we don't know what it was talking about.
It was just acne.
It's just identified.
I think it was just a catch-all phrase because they didn't
all the
have
teenagers
as much
need to be sent out
of
of town.
disease. Yes,
they're impure.
Unclean, pizza face. At least when you get zits as a teenager, your parents don't throw you out of the house.
So Isaac, you wanted to ask me something?
Nope.
You said who was it that said something, right?
It was who said that? The one that you said we should admit that we don't know.
Oh, Clines.
Oh, so that's pretty modern.
Yes. So where was I? The word shchin is attested in other Semitic languages, all with the basic meaning of to be hot or warm. Seow notes that verse 7 is reminiscent of Deuteronomy 28:35, where it is said, quote, "Yahweh will afflict nache, you, on the knees and legs, with a terrible inflammation, beshchin ra, from which you will not be able to recover from the sole of your foot to the crown of your head," end quote, a fate that happened to Job. In 4Q prayer of Nabonidus, God afflicts the Babylonian king Nabonidus in Teman with a bad shchin because of his sins.
Does anyone wonder if there aren't some diseases that went extinct because maybe they killed their hosts or whatever from that time period that we might not know about?
I mean, there might be, but like it would be difficult to even. I'm sure Ara might know more about this, considering this would be like I feel like if we had evidence of that kind of stuff, it'd be like in the form of like a retrovirus or something. But I guess you'd still have it then.
Yeah. It's more like a random hypothesis I'm throwing out as
what starts out as lethal very often has to mathematically overpopulation genetics. If you kill your host, you end up killing out the new population. So it works out better for the virus if the host survives to recover and then catch the same disease again and spread it again. So that's what ends up happening. Swine flu still exists.
True.
You know, I've had it. It's just a flu now. It's not what it used to be. COVID also became 50 different variants by now, but it doesn't kill people like it used to.
No.
So flus and colds are just like infections or bacteria or viruses that have adapted to the human body to use us as a form of what's the word?
Transmission. It's don't get me wrong. There are several forms of virus and parasite that will kill their host. But you have to do that in a way that spreads you actively by killing them. And that's not like always how things work.
Like the ant killing.
There's one for snails and there's one for mice. But
I mean, the only
fungus that like grows out the head of this. It causes the ant. It like controls their brain and makes them climb a leaf and then like hang out.
And get eaten by a sheep.
A bird will eat it, and then it'll,
The only
we could make a really good TV show out of that.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's a game. It's a game. The last.
No, there's a game that became a TV show.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so on verse 9, curse God and die. In Hebrew, Barech Elohim Vamut, literally bless God and die. This reading is preserved in most early translations, with only Peshitta reading blaspheme God and die. And Septuagint has the following addition, quote, how long will you persist and say, look, I will hang on a little longer while I wait for the hope of my deliverance? For look, your legacy has vanished from the earth. Sons and daughters, my womb's birth pangs and labors, for whom I wearied myself with hardships in vain. And you sit in the refuse of worms as you spend the night in the open air. As for me, I am one that wanders about and a hired servant, from place to place and house to house, waiting for when the sun will set, so I can rest from the distresses and griefs that now beset me. Now say some word to the Lord and die.
Wait, who is supposed to be speaking?
The wife, Job's
wife.
Yeah.
Right.
So the thing is, in later traditions, obviously, like with the Testament of Job, Job's wife becomes much more evil.
Yes.
Where Job is all like, "Get behind thee, Satan," and still talking to his wife. And the thing is, whether or not she's working with Satan. But
it reminds me of the lyrics of probably my favorite country song, when this guy is bragging about how he got in a fight and stole this woman away, but then he says, but that woman, she gets uglier and she gets meaner every day.
The Testament of Job is quite the expansion, because it will take any reasonable thing that his wife says and immediately turn Job into like this petulant child who's just like, no, you suck, down with you. Like it's really funny.
It's distressingly familiar, this idea that a woman who has just buried her children and thus might be very appropriately pissed off. No, fuck you. No, there's a time to be angry, and I buried all my children is definitely that moment.
I mean, Seow notes that Job's wife was portrayed sympathetically in Christian iconography before the 10th century, but there are some who say that have not been so sanguine. He writes that to Augustine, Job's wife was the devil's assistant. For him and many others in the early Christian period, she played Eve to Job's Adam.
Yeah,
This exegesis,
it's exactly like Testament of Job stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly how Augustine would see it.
So this exegesis is reflected in the bas relief on the sarcophagus of Junius Bassus from the 4th century CE. There, the depiction of the scene of Job and his wife, with Satan in between them, mirrors the next panel, which depicts Adam and Eve with the snake in the middle. That interpretation finds support as well among those who find affinities between the story here and Genesis 1-2, like Meyer. Indeed, earlier Christian interpreters often argued that the adversary had deliberately spared her the disasters that had befallen her family in order to use her against Job.
Okay, who here played Assassin's Creed 2? Or the Ezio? Do you remember the woman whose kids were taken and she, it's like, oh, give up your castle, and she's standing there and she's like, keep them, I have the equipment to make more, and she lifts her skirt. Which, granted, I think that might have been based on something actually historical, but which admittedly I think she was more betting that if she did give in, her sons would die, and so she was playing a strategic game. She didn't actually not care if they killed her kids. But I think that may be part of the reason that Job's wife remains, because otherwise how is he supposed to get his better looking kids?
Maybe he gets a better wife. No?
So I'll continue. Some commentators take the use of...
The newer version.
Okay, so I'll continue. Some commentators take the use of bless instead of curse to be a case of tikkun soferim, or correction of the scribes, also used in 1.5 in order to not accidentally blaspheme against God. However, others take the blessing here literally. Seow, citing Edwin Good, notes several ways to interpret the blessing. 1. Farewell, quote, say goodbye to God and die. 2. Rebellion, throw the whole thing in God's face and take the consequences of death. 3. Encouragement, go on holding fast to your integrity, stand fast in your piety even to death. And 4. Curse Elohim and be released from your suffering. According to Abba Bar Kahana in Genesis Rabbah 1912, Job's wife was Dinah, daughter of Jacob and Leah, an identification found in Talmud Bava Batra 15b and Targum. In the Testament of Job, she is called Sitis, which Clines takes as deriving from Ausitis, the Septuagint translation of Uz.
Yeah, I always thought that one of the reasons, the traditional commentators think that Job is not Jewish and is because of him being called the most righteous person on earth, right? That couldn't have been when Abraham, Isaac, could have been. It must have been before that time.
Or maybe he was the most righteous among the nations. But although I do get that curse God and die thing, is there an assumption that you will kill yourself as a fuck you to God, or say fuck you to God? Or if you curse God, is he expected to kill you? Is it like tempting God, like, smite me, O mighty smiter?
It might be something like that. That's definitely a feeling that I got from it. But another potential one would just be just kind of get your life over with now. Like, you're already in the throes of death. Just say damn you, God, and just let yourself go, right? But I'm not sure. That's just the vibe I'm getting from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I can say from experience that if you stand outside and yell smite me, O mighty smiter, he does exactly nothing. So Jim Carrey was right.
Yeah. I mean, Steinsaltz kind of puts it that his wife is telling him, God is causing you to suffer so much. The only way you can get out of it is make him kill you.
I mean, I could see that.
I see some comments on. Maybe you want to read it?
Sure. All right. So, My Unfinished Song says, "Hail Aaron and Panel, and hail Job from China." Okay. And then Jojo Freelancer KUP said, "In Islam, God let Satan to challenge Ayub. He stayed faithful, and his wife stayed with him, and his children were resurrected. Do some rabbis teach something similar?" Linked to Bible.
Yeah, I think we did talk about this this last week, where like at least that was like an interpretation that these are resurrections.
Then
Although
why does it say his daughters were hotter?
sure, yeah. But yeah, also having a entirely new family, he gets more kids too, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's an increase. There's double of everything.
Wait.
I mean, well, all his property, but of course, that's what children are in this world. Let me double check. He had how many? 7 sons and 3 daughters before?
And
Yes.
Did you say that his new daughters were hotter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there is like I think it's a story in the Talmud where it says that those Balaam, Jethro, and Job all lived around the same time, and they all worked for Pharaoh during the time of Moses, I think, which makes sense,
Yeah.
I guess. And like when Pharaoh wanted to kill, or when Pharaoh was worried about, there was a star in the sky or something, whatever, right? He was worried about something. So it was Balaam who advised to kill all of the male children, and I think Jethro was the one who argued against them being harmed. But Job was the one who was like, he didn't say anything. He was just quiet, and so that was the reason he was punished. So yeah, they're trying to think of a reason why is this good person getting punished?
Yeah.
But the entire point of the story was that there was no justification in Job's actions. He had never done anything to deserve it.
Right. So I guess by the time the Talmud is written, a couple of 100 years after Job is written, I guess the idea that God would make a wager with Satan to punish a completely innocent person who's a good person wasn't as
palatable. I mean, I feel like it's a way to address the injustice of life, that sometimes horrible shit happens and there's no good reason and you didn't deserve it and it still just is.
That's where people come up with the excuse that God is testing you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a less, I hate to say it, but it's a less cruel absurdity than the one that says you must have done something to deserve it, because then you just victim blame everybody regardless. And yeah.
Dr. Kip Davis says no, just 7 and 3.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. Just 7 and 3 kids. I looked, though it does name the daughters.
Yeah, it does. It does name the daughters.
Yes. And it calls and wait, I just
because the thing is, it does say earlier in that chapter that all of his like possessions were doubled.
Yeah. And it says in verse 15, nowhere in the land were women as beautiful as Job's daughters to be found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
so if it's a resurrection, I guess they just got a makeover.
Funny,
I just want to note that the names of the daughters are quite interesting. It's Yemima, Ktsi'a, and Keren Hafuch.
Karen what?
Keren Hafuch.
Karen
like
Hafuch,
in
okay.
Hebrew, it's like it means like upside
horn?
down horn. Keren
okay.
Hafuch. That's so funny.
Then Bruno Zygert 6379 says offers $5 Canadian and says the elephant man didn't have elephantiasis. It was more like Proteus syndrome.
Yeah.
And then how do I pronounce this?
The
spam goes here.
Yeah, the spam goes here.
Yeah. That snake on screen looks to be doing the squirming toddler thing. I don't want to sit still for the camera. Yeah, she kind of is.
They do like to slip into your hair. I assume it's warm in there.
Okay, so on verse 10, Job did not sin in what he said. The Masoretic text reads, Job did not sin with his lips. Targum adds, but in his mind he thought on words. Likewise, traditionals thought that Job did sin in his heart, although Ibn Ezra argued that Job did not sin with his lips so far. Hartley notes that the lips express a person's deepest thought, as we see in Proverbs 18:4. He writes that when one strives for moral purity, they are the hardest member to bring under control, and are obstinate to discipline. He argues that this is the reason the wisdom tradition taught that the one who controls his speech has his whole life in focus. Proverbs 13:3 and 21:23.
Well, if he's not going to sin with his lips, then we're going to have to break up.
Yeah.
Agreed. Men who will not sin with their lips.
Yeah. Okay, on 11, Habel comments, quote, the names of the three friends and their places of origin have been the subject of considerable speculation. There is no textual evidence that their names are intended to designate roles like the Satan, the opposer or doubter. Eliphaz and Teman both appear in Edomite genealogies in Genesis 36 verses 4 and 15. Teman's association with Edom elsewhere suggests a place known for its wisdom, Jeremiah 49:7. The term Shuchite, or Shuchi, is presumably to be linked with the name Shuach, a son of Abraham by Keturah in Genesis 25:2. The abode of Shuach remains unknown, except that it is probably somewhere in the land of the east where Shuach was sent, compare 1:3. The term Naamatite, or Naamati, derives from Naamah, a female descendant of Cain in Genesis 4:22. The diverse geographical origins of these three wise quote-unquote men suggest that they each bring their own traditional wisdom to comfort Job and interpret his plight. And I also like that Targum here, which has the following addition, quote, when they saw that the trees of their gardens had withered and that the food of their meals had been changed into the flesh of wild beasts, and that the wine of their feasts had been turned into blood, they came each from his own place, and by virtue of that they were delivered from the place prepared for them in Gehenna.
So all of their personal stuff rotted away, and then they came to Job, and that saved them from that makes no fucking sense. Yeah, my whole house doesn't need to burn down for me to visit someone who's sick.
I think it's like they got a sign, and because they listened to the sign and they figured it must be something to do with, somehow they figured out it's something to do with Job. That was like them doing such a good thing that it saved them from having any sort of punishment in the afterlife.
I suppose. I feel like the explanations create more problems than the text sometimes. A lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, verse 12, sprinkle dust on their heads. The Masoretic text reads, they threw dust into the air unto their heads. Although putting dust on one's head is a well-known mourning rite, the dust is not said to be thrown or sprinkled, in Hebrew, zarak. The only time dust is thrown towards heaven in the Bible is by Moses, which turns to boils onto humans and animals, as we see in Exodus 9, 8 through 10. I think. Yeah. Some have suggested to delete toward heaven and see this as the regular morning rite. Thus, Septuagint omits into the heavens. Habel notes Drome's opinion that the expression in the Masoretic text, Hashamayma, is a variant of the preceding above their heads, in Hebrew, al Rashehem. Habel also suggested that the friends perform a rite which symbolically calls forth the same sickness on themselves, as an act of total empathy. Clines notes Gordis's opinion that there is an apotropaic rite of throwing dust over the head, i.e. backwards, toward heaven, so as to ward off from themselves the evil that had befallen Job from that direction. Seow notes that Hautman compared this with Acts 22:23, where those who lament throw off their cloaks and throw dust into the air. Thus, Job's friends throw dust over their heads into the sky in the direction of God, in a gesture symbolizing an appeal to God to bury the originators of Job's suffering with dust. Seow, however, notes the parallel with Exodus 9 and argues that this is part of the friends' ritual identification, quote-unquote, with Job's suffering. He argues that they threw dust over the head into the sky in a symbolic appeal to God to bring upon themselves the sheen that fell upon the Egyptians, as it fell upon Job.
I mean, that's the thing. The dust is a well-known mourning ritual, and Job isn't even supposed to be Jewish, so there might have been a slightly different application of it in his part of the world, or hypothetical part of the world that may or may not exist. It seems like, it seems like we're overcomplicating things. People need to express their mourning by doing something, and sometimes that thing is not always perfectly rational, because it's about emotions. And if anyone in the Bible has ever had the justification to be a little emotional and irrational.
Yeah. When I read it, I thought it came to me that it was like something that the author did to kind of show these people as being foreign but similar.
Yeah. There's it's similar enough that you recognize it, but not exact, so they're definitely other. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that vibe.
Because like tearing the robe is definitely a Jewish mourning tradition as well.
Yeah, but I don't think they were necessarily the only ones.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. I see some comments, but Aaron's not here.
In that case, I will read them.
There is. There is.
Apparently, people who have like a relative who is sick, like a father or mother, and they know that they're gonna die, they make sure to wear an old suit. So when the time comes, they rip the old suit and not the new one.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my unfinished sock says, don't make up cruel excuses for God's plot holes. Like and share the stream instead.
Agreed.
And then the atheist carpenter says, is throwing dust in the air in any way connected to the superstition of throwing spilled salt over one's shoulder?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But if you sprinkle the right dust on your head, you can fly.
No,
Also,
I thought that was if you speak God's name.
I thought that it was if you drink a Red Bull.
I think dust is more like a symbol of mourning, and salt is more of a is symbolic.
It's supposed to ward off evil. Yeah. Salt and iron are supposed to ward off supernatural evil forces, and dust is just.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, they told me that the way to catch a wild bird was to sprinkle salt on its tail.
Yeah, I saw that one in books, like references to it. Not in terms of anyone actually doing that, but salt on the tail thing. What the hell was that?
If you want to catch a wild bird, you need to get close enough to it so that you can pour salt on its tail.
Yeah, that's
just
gonna
scrap it then.
Yeah, I think that was the logic there. All right, who are we reading the next one now?
Nope, no, because you know what time it is.
Oh. Yes.
Soundboard.
Christian commentary on Job.
Stained glass windows keep the cold outside, whilst the hypocrites are hiding inside with the lies of statues in their minds, where the Christian religions made them blind. I tried.
I couldn't understand the words. I just had hippogriffs, and I was like, okay.
His album is on sale in the lobby.
No, if anybody knows the reference, then no. Okay, so the Christians, yes.
Is it like a band where it's?
Yes, it is. It is a band.
What's her name?
Public Image.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking of that.
It's called, the song is called Religion.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so where was I? Yes. Okay, so Gregory the Great said that in the affliction, he, i.e. Job, foreshadows the suffering of Christ after he assumed a human nature and human disease.
Of course it does.
And Ephraim says that Job's three friends symbolically represent the three classes of the high priest, priests, and prophets.
Of course.
Yes.
Did he just create a new caste system?
Yeah.
High priest, priest, and prophet?
Yes.
Like, the high priest is still a priest. He's the...
Yeah,
those
and
are
they
just
can be
two.
prophets.
They're trying to make a trio out of two for no freaking reason. Oh,
And they can
no.
be prophets.
I mean, he writes, Job's 3 friends signified the class of the high priests, the priests, and the prophets who flourished among the Jews, and Job's 7 sons represented the priests of the church, the apostles, the prophets, and those people endowed with the gift of miracle and healing, the assistants of the moderators, and the presbyters, and the deacons.
Of course.
It's so
Of
random.
course. Yeah, because this guy's friend came to console him in his time of stress, because we needed to have a bleak references to deacons.
And also, like Judaism already has like the Bible already has like reference to a 3-tier system.
Yeah.
Like priest,
one of them is the king.
Levite, Israelite, not high priest, and prophet. Interesting.
I mean, even if you wanted to say leaders, priests, prophets, and the king, you could have that as a trio for leadership.
That's
specifically.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why am I Christianing better than the Christians?
Not hard.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And who is reading 3?
I shall read 3.
Yeah. So this is the part where the Hebrew is difficult. Or
Yeah.
Yes.
But also reading ahead a bit, there's some very interesting stuff that I had forgotten about until now, especially about darkness, which I do plan on writing a paper on. I was talking to Chrissy about this the other day, and she thought that there was like something, definitely something here. I already have a bunch of notes from when I was doing my capstone paper. And particularly I wanted to compare some of this stuff in some way. It wouldn't be the focus of the paper, but I want to compare some of it to Jeremiah 13:16 as well. So all right, I'll get to read. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Job said, "Let the day perish in which I was born, and the night that said a male is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, or light shine on it. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. Let clouds settle upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. That night, let thick darkness seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months." I'm gonna stop. This is killing me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it reminds me. It reminds me of that album "Nail" by Scraping Fetus Off the Wheel. When he says, "I'm canceling my next birthday."
Yes, let that night be barren. Let no joyful cry be heard in it. Let those curse it who curse the sea. Those who are skilled to rouse up Leviathan. Oh boy, this is juicy. Okay.
Yes.
Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it hope for light but have none. May it not see the eyelids of the morning, because it did not shut the doors of my mother's womb, and hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not die at birth? I agree, Job. Come forth from the womb and why did I die at birth? Come forth from the womb and expire. Why were there knees to receive me, or breasts for me to suck? Now, dude, also, yeah.
These are bars.
Yeah. Now I would be lying down and quiet. I would be asleep. Then I would be at rest, with kings and counselors of the earth who rebuild ruins for themselves, or with princes who have gold, who fill their houses with silver. Or why was I not buried like a stillborn child, like an infant that never sees the light? There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They do not hear the voice of the taskmaster. The small and the great are there, and the slaves are free from their masters. Why is light given to one in misery, and life to the bitter in soul, who who long for death, but it does not come, and dig for it more than for hidden treasures, who rejoice exceedingly, and are glad when they find the grave. Why is light given to one who cannot see the way, whom God has fenced in? For my sighing comes like my bread. Cat, would you fucking calm down? That's not in the text. And my groanings are poured out like water. Truly, the thing that I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, but trouble comes. There is quite a lot to say about
Yes.
this section.
Yes.
So all this stuff
I'm
about
to be honest, I have heard people who wish they have never been born in times of distress, that it would be better for them never to have lived than to gone through what they went through. And like it's kind of interesting that part of the Christian pro-life movement is this complete denial that people exist who think that, either who have said that in great times of distress or who genuinely think that about their whole life. I've met both.
That's how I feel. It would be better if I was just never born.
Yeah, I don't know how you can imagine that existing and suffering is better than never having existed to begin with.
Right, yeah.
It's such a strange idea.
So, I talked a little bit about this, the darkness here right now. I wanted to first note the very first thing that let the day perish in which I was born, and the night that said a male is conceived. The reason this is significant is because in a later text, and we've mentioned this on the show before, but in the Ecclesiasticus, book of Ben Sira, one of the things that is so often just rude is the day a female is born, and that was unfortunately a common opinion at the time, that the universe cries when girls are born. So it is interesting that there's this subversion here. And I'm not exactly sure where that at what time that idea started. I'm sure Tomer has a note on this, but it's very clear he's doing he's kind of twisting an idiomatic phrase of his day, and saying, oh, it's not rue the day that a female is born, rue the day that a male is born. So that is
conceived, yes.
that is number one that I wanted to say.
Though there is an interesting bit by Seow, who notes that Gebel he renders it mortal is conceived. Gebel, he notes that the reference to the birth of a Gebel is anomalous. One might expect the birth of Yeled, child, Ben, son, or Zachar, male, but not Gebel. The incongruity is reflected in the awkwardness of the traditional translation of the term as man-child, quote-unquote, as we see in KJV. The popular rendering boy does not accurately reflect the usage in Hebrew, where children are excluded by the term. More plausibly, the usage is similar to what one finds in Imperial Aramaic, where Gebel may refer to someone or anyone. Even so, given the usage of the term in the rest of the book, Gebel is surely not just the child at birth. The poet, it seems, points not to the night of Job's conception, at least not to that alone, but to the conception of mortal, capital M, mortal. The translation of Voget is entirely appropriate. Conceptus est homo. The language of creation in Targum too is appropriate. Et bara gabar, a man is created.
Okay. So that's,
could you translate it as a man has conceived? A man has conceived.
Hora. Hora, it means to. Yeah, I think you can say conceive. Yeah,
because it is the same verb that is used. Normally, it's feminine. It's horta or whatever it is.
Hora,
she conceived, and when it's hora, he conceived. It means he impregnated.
That's what Rashi. That's Rashi's interpretation. Yeah.
Right. So a man has impregnated is kind of what he says.
Yes.
Right. But I'm saying, like, yeah, I guess you could. I don't know if it's used anywhere else. I mean, it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
If the verb can be used in both, you know, in English maybe you don't say conceived for both, but yeah.
I mean, horagav. Yeah, I mean, amar. Yes, I can see that.
Those are just differences in language. It's pretty ordinary to have that.
Yeah, because the word gever normally means man, so it wouldn't really make sense that like a man was conceived.
Yeah.
Because he's not a man, unless it's a homunculus theory thing. But yeah, and but yeah, a man has. I don't know what's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
There were some other things I wanted to note here. I'm not sure what the Hebrew words are here. That's something I have to look into. But,
oh wait, you need to look into?
Yes.
Which verse? What we're talking
verse?
about? Verse 3.
No. And so all the words and synonyms for darkness and verses 4 through.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
5.
4 through 10 basically.
Yeah. Choshech, Tzalmavet, Anana, Yivatum, Yom, Halayla. Yeah. Ofel.
Okay. So yeah, looking. Does it have hold on, Arafel?
Arafel?
No.
And anywhere?
No, it has Ofel.
Yeah, verse 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said Salmot was in there?
So Salmovet, you could think of it as being 2 words, like the shadow of death.
Yeah, that is a potential one. So the shadow of death is how it's usually thought of. But then Holloway argues for actually a traditional interpretation as utter darkness. And while it's usually translated as shadow of death in like older versions, it could also just be a superlative of darkness, which D. Winton Thomas argues in his paper Psalmot in the Old Testament.
Yeah. It's like it literally translated. It probably comes from words that means shadow of death, but doesn't mean like the, anything to do with dying or death happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Death's shadow.
It's just like a darkness so great, no light can escape it. Or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And that seems to be a lot of the this is a lot of the stuff that we find actually in Jeremiah 13:16, which is why I actually have it noted here to specifically compare Job 3. So I think there's a lot that goes into this darkness, right? So this is still something that I have to actually write the paper on. Not a lot of work has been done on this, surprisingly. So the concept of divine darkness. No. Oh, holy shit. Cat. Oh shit. Hold on.
Go get him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean JPS translates some of it as deep gloom, and Ophel as obscurity.
I mean, there is a misunderstanding of the concept of darkness in the more arcane. Wasn't there supposed to be like a jar of the darkness that covered Egypt that was kept in the Vatican or something? But there was supposed to be like a physical darkness that could encompass things. Although in this case, I mean, it pretty much just sounds like he's cursing it, cursing the day he was born and wishing that it never had been, in various forms of colorful language. Nobody actually expects a day of the calendar to be eaten by a living dark.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look that up because there's a bunch of microbreweries in this town, and somebody's going to make Jar of Darkness because that just sounds too awesome.
That sounds very metal.
So yeah, what I was saying before, right? Sorry, the cat was going to jump on. Never mind, he already jumped on it. Okay, great. So we have something like a freezer thawing because we just brought down a new one, and it's like we have it leaning and he just jumped on it. That is a bad idea, Cat. You're gonna have a bad time. Okay. Anyways, just let him make his own mistakes. So,
Apparently,
the
Jar of Darkness is an item in RuneScape. But...
Oh, well, there you go. It's a magical potion.
The this darkness motif pops up a lot in this chapter. Yes, it is absolutely used to be this kind of like metaphorical way of saying like, oh, I wish I was never born, like the light of day will never see my life kind of thing, right? Which is certainly how he's using it. Sorry, I have to deal with this cat.
I want to know what it is that his cat is doing.
Well, apparently jumping on a freezer, but that wouldn't be if it's like tilted or something, that could be a serious problem. So I don't know. They're de-icing it or something. Just wrap the cat up in a burrito and you know, you got to get all the paws in. They'll be very annoyed, but
a burrito.
Yes, a burrito.
Oh, that was so bad.
The new thing on
so
Taco
sorry.
Bell.
I'm so sorry. He's just absolutely insane.
Did you give him something else to occupy himself with?
Kinda, yeah. But that's only temporary. So, why do they always? I fucking swear, every single time that, like so often when I'm doing this show, that's when they're like, all right, time to like move something down here, time to, put things in weird positions and have the cats like.
Nothing's gonna fall on him, is it?
No, not from where he is right now.
Please, something will fall on him.
Yeah. So right now he's safe, but when he leaves that area, there is a chance that something will fall over, but it won't fall on him. But okay. Yeah, he's okay for now. So I just hold on. I want to get through this because I'm gonna have to get back to my cat soon, anyways. So yes, I do want to have a whole thing about divine darkness, because darkness is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because God also exists in the darkness. So this motif may come from storm imagery, right? That's been probably the most common hypothesis. But even then, like in Joel 2, for example, the day of Yahweh will be dark. There's quite a lot of connections to like the dawn, right? So we have here in verse 9, let the stars of its dawn be dark. So there's certainly a connection here between like the day of Yahweh and like complete destruction or devastation, things being wiped out, almost like going back to this to the state of initial creation, and that might be like
reset.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So I actually want to quote here. So this is actually from something that was said on Holiday's commentary from Jeremiah. On Holiday's commentary from Jeremiah 4. But I think this is a very good time to say this. Yeah, just to kind of go with what I'm. So you're picking up what I'm putting down. He envisages a decreation of the cosmos. The world again becomes the chaos before creation began. Not a retro version, turning back the clock, but a moving ahead to a state identical with that before Yahweh's creative activity began. In the more terrible way, Endzeit ist Urzeit. So like the end time is the initial time, the beginning time. That's what that would be. So I think that a lot of that plays into the darkness motif, and that's something that I want to expand on. But then to move us forward a bit, I am going to also point out that like we also see in verse 7 like the motif of barrenness, right? Yeah. So in verse 8, yes, let those who curse it, let those curse it who curse the sea. So this, what's is the word here? Is it yum?
Where?
In verse 8.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that as well.
Yom.
Yeah, Yom.
Yeah, the Masoretic says Yom, which normally means day, but I think it's possible that it said Yom.
The sea I think would make a lot more sense, especially if you're paralleling it with Leviathan.
Yes.
Yeah, and that of course takes up the Canaanite motif.
I mean, cursing
and this
sea,
isn't
though, that a lot of people lose themselves on the sea. There's a lot of people lost at sea.
Well, sure, but I mean, no, because the thing is, the sea was viewed as, like, in Canaanite myth, like Baal fought Yam, who was the sea, the primordial sea. So the and he of course has ties to Lotan, who I think there's some connection there to Leviathan as well. This is kind of this leftover from Canaanite mythology, which I find very interesting.
The Bible also
it does a lot.
I mean,
the Bible also pairs Leviathan with the sea as well.
Right. Yeah. At the end of time, your people are also going to eat Leviathan.
Yeah.
They're gonna like fish him up or something.
Sit in his and his I think it's skin.
A sukkah made of its skin.
Sukkah made
of
skin.
So I mean, Psalm 74. There's two verses where it's like, it was you who drove back the sea with your might. ... It was you who crushed the head of the Leviathan. So
So you still have that parallelism. And I think that was actually one of the main things in my paper on biblical cosmology.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible. It is possible that Yom should be Yom, but it's not widely accepted. I think.
But it's possible that it's still Yom.
Yes.
It's still spelled that way. It wasn't necessarily a change in spelling from Yom to Yom. But that the word Yom could be a variant of Yum in the sense that you could translate it as sea.
Yes, I get that, but still there are some objections. I think Clines has the.
Okay, hold on. You guys can talk about this. I'm going to deal with this cat again.
Clines notes that this view contains the inescapable problem that anyone who curses, quote unquote, the sea must be on the side of order and goodness, since the sea is a chaotic and evil power. Whereas in the second column, the rousing of Leviathan is obviously for the sake of destructive activity. And it is impossible to see how partisans of order could be invoked to lay spells on the night of Job's conception. It is preferable then to retain the Masoretic reading, even if it is flatter, according to Rowley, and see those who curse a day as, quote, enchanters or magicians reputed to have the power to make days unlucky, according to Driver, perhaps specifically by producing eclipses, which is what is referred to in the second column.
I mean, that does black out the sky. Aaron, when did you get a black cat?
I've had 2 black cats for many years. One of them is named Blair. It was named after a disturbing hentai character, I think, by one of my kids. I'm like, where did you get this name? And she showed me this cartoon character. I swear the cartoon character was in lingerie.
Yeah, that's anime is like that sometimes. It's one of the more gross things
but
about
this was a little kid.
I know.
This character, I'm like, wow, okay. And then the other one is named Hecate, which the joke there is it's Hey Kitty.
Oh, Soul Eater.
It's terrible. But I appreciate the goddess.
Blair started meowing over in the dining room, and then nobody was paying attention to her, so she wandered all the way down here meowing very loudly until she walked in here. I'm like, the fuck is wrong? I get up, she wanders back into the dining room. I follow her to the dining room. She stands in the middle of the dining room, looks at me expectantly, and starts meowing louder. What? Develop other words in your vocabulary. Let me know what the hell the problem is.
Do you feed her in the dining room, or was there perhaps an escaped snake in the dining room again?
No, but an escaped snake is a possibility. But why would she tell me about it?
Because snakes are dangerous to cats and they know better than
No, cats are dangerous to snakes.
It depends on the respective size of snake and cat, but
True. And there's one or two in the dining room that would be formidable, but I don't think that's the problem.
okay, well, maybe she just wanted snacks. I mean, the wet food.
I don't know what the deal is. She normally doesn't act like that.
Well, she's definitely asking for something specific, but I could not tell you.
Yep. Neither can I.
I'm gonna get a touch more.
This
coffee.
this is the first, the only place maybe in the Bible that kind of condemns slavery.
Ooh, fancy.
In verse 19, it says the slave is free of his master, as in when they're dead.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, how
kind
lovely.
of saying that.
Well, the thing is,
that
even
they're happy because
even
of their
even the
freedom.
Christians at the time, during like during the transatlantic slave trade, even they weren't like totally convinced like, oh, this is a good thing. Like there are accounts of like people who were pro-slavery who are also talking about the humanity of the slaves. Like
and debating whether they had it, but at the very least they were clear about it. It's not a pleasant life.
Right? Yeah, obviously.
Right. But yeah, it's interesting that you can identify the the wants of a person to be free, and you can identify with it. Like, I also want this, or I would want it, but then you don't give it to someone.
There's
like you think like, yeah.
There's a book from actually one of my professors, Dr. Demetrius Williams, who we did have on my channel for the reading of I think it was some of the Johannans. The book is called oh my god, what's it fucking called? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. It's got a kind of a long title. It's almost like one of those like really old timey ones where like the title just goes on and on and on.
Oh, that is to say regarding the oh
yeah, something like that.
Spinoza's Tractatus, which is quite long.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look up the title of the book here. Okay, yeah. So the book is called "The Cross of Christ: An African American Christian Religious Experience, Piety, Politics, and Protest." Yeah, so that is a book that he wrote on that, and he has a lot of very interesting stuff in there.
I should note regarding verse 19, Seow's commentary on this. He notes that there may be that may not be all there is to the poetic line. So Michel, W.L. Michel, has aptly noted that the netherworld is known in Ugaritic texts as Bet Chapatat, or House of Freedom, and go down to the netherworld's House of Freedom, be counted among those who descend to the netherworld. In this case, the House of Freedom is a euphemism for a place where there is, ironically, no freedom, quote, a place which one enters but never leaves, end quote, according to Astor. Similarly, Bet HaChopshit, House of Freedom, in 2 Kings 15:5, is a euphemism for the quarters where lepers are confined. Elsewhere in the Bible, too, Sheol is portrayed as a prison in Jonah 2:7, which is 6 in the Old Testament, a place where one is confined by the gates of death, in Job 38:17, Psalms 9:14, and 107:18. Thus, the poet's allusion to the freedom of the netherworld may be paradoxical. There is a place where one is free, but from oppression of every sort. But what sort of freedom is that really?
Got a comment from Trevor369 who says, would you say in Job 2, mentioning the test that God put Job through and coming out as perfect is rooted in the narrative of his book, but how does it fit into the biblical narrative?
Oh, so I mean, if we're talking about how this fits into the biblical narrative, it basically doesn't, like in the greater overall story. But that's the case for a lot of wisdom literature.
Okay, so I'll start the commentary. First, on verse 1, curse the day of his birth. The Masoretic text reads, and he cursed his day, in Hebrew, vayekalel et yomo. The usual understanding of this phrase is that Job cursed the day of his birth, as we see in Septuagint, Peshitta, Rashbam, Ibn Ezra, and Kimchi, an interpretation favored by Hartley and Habel. However, others reject this reading, since the language is less specific in contrast to other texts, like the day in which I was born in Jeremiah 20:14, the day when one was born in Ecclesiastes 7:1, etc. Didymus suggested that Job was cursing the painful events that happened on that day. Hakham argued that the expression has the general meaning of time, the period of his life, i.e., Job cursed what had happened to him during his time. Tur-Sinai, followed by Clines, adds that Job could refer to his evil fate, perhaps even the day of his disaster. Likewise, Seow writes that Job is reviling not only the day of his birth, but his destiny, his very existence, or even human existence in general.
He's going through the Buzz Lightyear thing. Years of academy training wasted. Pointless.
Yeah. On verse 3, Seow comments, quote, Knight's proclamation is broadly reminiscent of the traditional birth announcement formula known in the Bible and Ugaritic. In such a formula, one expects reference to the birth of a child, a boy, a son, or the like, as indeed in Jeremiah's curse. One does not accept the announcement to be the conception of a gever, a term normally used of a full-grown male with procreative potential. The dissonance slows one down, so that one may notice that the poet has in fact moved beyond the specific firstborn subject, I was born, to the generic gever, a word that in the book most frequently refers to human beings in general. No doubt, at one level, the text is speaking of the conception of Job himself. Even so, there is something more sublime here. The poet is going beyond the day of the birth of a particular individual to the origin of humanity, beyond Job's birth to human conception as a creative event.
Also, like, announcing a birth makes sense, but announcing a conception seems a bit like
That just sounds like the poetic rhyming. Yeah.
I just had sex.
I thought it would be more often relayed as, I'm late.
That is the point where you know that the best 30 seconds of your life actually have longer implications, to reference the song that Tomer's talking about. I have heard that one. What can I say? That just sounds though like the poetic rhyming inherent in Judaism, and especially, before ultrasounds and such, you wouldn't know whether the child you conceived was male or female until they are born. So
what are you talking about? If the bed was lying from north to south, then it's obviously going to be a boy, and if it's east to west, it's going to be a girl. Like, that's how it works, no?
Science.
And you didn't test this by peeing on the special grass?
I do like the Targum that adds, perish the day on which I was born, and the angel who registered the conception.
Oh, yeah, because that's what angels are for. Heavenly paperwork.
They're kind of like that in the Quran, at least.
Sorry.
It makes it more sense, in a sense, because an angel might actually know that someone was conceived, and if it's a man or not.
Yeah. What I was referencing was that, like, in the Quran, the angels like take you to they almost play like the role of reapers sometimes. So they do
reverse reaper.
Yeah, so they do. I'd call that administrative work.
There's this really nice Avram Fried song of like the angel and the soul having this conversation about, like, come on and take you down to earth, and the soul is like, I don't want to go, it's so nice up here, blah blah blah, and like, and the angel convinces him to go down to earth and whatever, and then the day that the person dies, the angel has come to take him back up, and the soul's like, what are you talking about? Like, life here is great. Why would I want to go up? Leave. And then the angel has to
you didn't
convince
want to
him
come
again,
here in the first place.
but in the opposite way. Yeah, it's like, It's a nice song in like musically, but the message is a bit whatever.
Okay. On verse 5, Habel comments, quote, "In the biblical creation account, light is called day. That light, once created, is separated out from the darkness, choshech. In verse 5, Job invokes a reversal of that event whereby the darkness, once more, reclaims Gaal, Job's day, with all the light that gives it existence. Who the specific powers... Sorry.
The thing I noted, yeah.
Yeah. Who the specific powers of darkness are which Job rouses to effect this return to primordial darkness is not clear. Choshech apparently has connotations of primordial oblivion, Genesis 1:2. Both Choshech, darkness, and Tzalmavet, death's shadow, are, however, associated with the netherworld, as we see in 10:21-22, 17:12, 38:17.
I gotta talk to one of my local brewers about primordial oblivion. That's a great name for a stout.
That is metal as fuck.
Yeah. Where was I? Darkness may also itself be a designation for death or the netherworld, as we see in Psalms 35:6. Proposed connections with the heavy darkness produced by the final plague in Egypt, Exodus 10:21 forward, are more tenuous. Perhaps the cloud, Anana, is a black thunder cloud. The context, however, suggests a more ominous cloud that eradicates all light. Compare Ezekiel 33:32:7-8, 34:12, and Joel 2:2. The last evil forces in this series of incantations are the demons of the day, quote-unquote, whose terrifying powers apparently transform day into night. Thus, an awesome array of figures capable of destroying light are invoked to return Job's day of origin to dark oblivion.
I made a mistake. It's not an Avram Fried song. It's A.B. Rottenberg with Mordechai Ben David.
And I also should note Targum here, which reads, "May a cloud rest upon it, may they terrify it like the bitter things of the day, the grief which troubled Jeremiah at the destruction of the sanctuary, and Jonah when he was thrown into the sea of Tarshish." Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he's wishing for oblivion, not just to die, but to have never been born and know so much pain. It's a sentiment that, yeah, is not unique to Job, but it's definitely being described in ways that reflect that particular culture's literature and mythologies and so forth. So
yeah.
that's pretty standard.
Yeah. On verse 7, Clines comments, quote, "Job is not so hostile to humanity in general as to give voice to a malediction upon the recurring date of his birth. Nor is he so generous toward the human race as to wish that, quote, it shall do to no others the wrong it did to him," end quote, according to Pique. His anguish remains directed exclusively to the conditions of his own existence, and now he wishes, another hopeless wish, that the night of his conception had been barren, galmud, perhaps literally stony, his mother's conception being regarded as the personal act of the night on which it took place, or perhaps better, the night being a fertile being who produces as its offspring human conception. The cry of joy, in Hebrew renana, he wishes, had never been uttered, is the sound of his parents' lovemaking that resulted in his conception, or perhaps the joyful singing of the epithalamium, or wedding ode. If it is to be assumed that the wedding night is the night of conception, the rejoicing is obviously not over the birth of the child, as against most commentators, since it is the night of conception, not the day of birth, that is in view.
But again, I think they're just using poetic repetition. Like, you're still not gonna know. It's a boy. It seems like the cry of, yeah, you're just referring to the conception as necessitating the birth. I don't know. I think they're being way too literal-minded with obviously poetic language.
Yeah. Now on verse 8, Leviathan, in Hebrew, Leviathan. Most translations, including Vulgate, Peshitta, Aquila, and Symmachus, render this word as a personal name, Leviathan, with the understanding that this refers to a sea monster, also Septuagint, which reads, the great sea monster. Targum reads, when aroused to lead off their lament. Likewise, most traditionals, except Kimchi, who favors the large fish reading, understood Livyatan as Livyatam, mem instead of nun at the end, reading their sorrow or their lament. Most commentators, however, follow the translations and take Leviathan as the sea monster which embodies chaos in the Bible, as we see in 40:25 through 41:26, which in the Old Testament is 1 through 34, Psalm 74:12 through 17, and Isaiah 27:1. Habel notes that, as in the Baal myth of Ugarit, Yam and Leviathan are companion deities identified with the forces of chaos. He describes Leviathan as, quote, the violent sea monster with whom Baal does battle and who represents the forces of chaos overcome by Yahweh in a primordial battle, end quote. He argues that Job invokes forces of chaos to destroy the created order. Hakham, however, writes that ancient hunters used to seek the assistance of sorcerers when they went out to hunt large animals. Thus, Job summons the sorcerers, who are capable of rousing Leviathan from its lair with their curses, and asks them to curse the night. Likewise, Clines writes that, quote, rousing Leviathan is a second skill that Job would have wished employed on his behalf against the night of his conception, end quote. Seow notes that many commentators like Davidson, Ball, and Rowley think that the underlying idea is a belief that an eclipse represents the swallowing of the sun or the moon by a celestial dragon.
So the apologists, the theologians, refer to him as Leviathan, but his friends just call him Cecil.
Aaron, there is so much cool stuff related to this. Like, I have watched like some of the stuff you've done on this, and it barely scratches the surface of how deep it goes. It's actually crazy.
I mean, I'm sure you could spend an entire.
Give me a link if you've made it.
career.
I'm sorry, Lilith. Lawrence, give me a link if you've already made a video about it.
I haven't.
Okay, because I would look forward to that.
I think there's too much stuff. Like, genuinely, you could do whole papers on this.
I mean, last I heard, like, I know that Chrissy's a polytheist, right? And I'm not sure if she is still specifically a Canaanite polytheist. So, like, you know, she's read this stuff a lot. You know, you could always ask in the Discord, Aaron, if you ever wanted to do that.
What is this Discord you speak of?
Yeah, it's a thing that you're in that you're also not in.
He is symbolically there.
Yeah,
it's a magical land.
Yeah, but it's there's a lot. Like Mark S. Smith actually does a very good job. So I can give you what was it, the Early History of God by Mark S. Smith. Phenomenal book. And he has he very clearly demonstrates like all of the ways that specifically Canaanite mythology influenced early Israelite religion. It's really good stuff.
All right. Well, on that recommendation, I'm looking it up.
Wait.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, regarding Leviathan or Leviosan, specifically, I really like the Agada stories of like how big it is, and like it's so big that
how big is it?
But there's this story of like this guy who is like one of the teachers in the Talmud he's known for like going on these like travels and stuff. So he was on the Mediterranean Sea, and at night the sea lit up, was bright, and he asked the sailors, what is this? And they're like, this is the eye of the Leviathan. And they sailed for 2-3 nights and it was still there. You know, like, that's how big this thing is. And there's a story of like in the beginning God created 2 of every animal, and he created 2 Leviathans, and he straight away like slaughtered one of them and salted its flesh, because if there were 2 of them and they were to have children, it would destroy the earth.
I mean, I do get the principle of the Leviathan, we can't let them, take over the world. But why would you make one just to kill it?
Well, the meat will be served to the righteous in the end of days. And
Yum.
its skin will be used to shelter them in the big sukkah in the hut. But the thing is, it's like they didn't understand the idea of stable ecosystems or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, obviously if you create two, then it's going to create all of them, and they're going to live forever, and just population explosion. Like nothing will keep them.
Well, they are magical, immortal monsters, so
right. But like, yeah, could have just made them made them regular animals, but in a sense of.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, on verse 10, the doors of the womb. Inibu dalti bitni, literally, the doors of my belly. The usual understanding of this phrase is that bitni refers to Job's mother's womb, as we see in Septuagint, Vulgate, Peshitta, and traditionals. Seow writes that this interpretation is corroborated as one proceeds in reading the poem. He notes that some understood the final yud as a remnant of the old genitive ending, rather than as the first person, or have tried to make the allusion to the mother more explicit by construing the suffix as a Phoenicianized third feminine singular suffix, and thus her womb. He argues that, if one reads the poem in its present sequence, one might assume that Job regrets that he had not been prevented from siring children. And Targum reads, the partitions and the muscles which are the doorway of the womb. I like that.
Oh, look at the fuzzy little troublemaker. Oh. The orange.
You're muted, Isaac. You're muted.
I'm saying you could translate like my belly, my womb as the one that I was carried in, right?
Yeah.
The prison of my conception.
Yes, I think so.
I could definitely see a man using it that way. But let's be honest, it's all the same. It's poetic. I wish I was never born. I wish I never existed rather than experience this.
Right.
Why is the sun so...
Interestingly, I saw a poll about if people had the option of living their lives over again. You're going back to whether it's 18 years old for some people or some other age roundabout there, and living their lives from that point on, right, with able to make new decisions and everything. If they had that ability, a majority of people polled said that they would not have their same kids again.
Really?
Yeah, a majority of people polled just said they would rather, if they had a chance to go live it over again, they would be childless.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they wouldn't have any children. So I did it right. Okay, this is good. But
yeah, me too.
I mean, I thought that it was possible that, you might make different life decisions. You might not choose to have a kid with that asshole, which would mean you would have a different kid.
Yep.
Because,
Well, realistically, you would, even if you had the same partner and tried to orchestrate everything exactly the same way, it would still be a different kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But the idea is that most of these people would rather, and the reason why is pretty obvious, I think. I've met a few childless couples that when they're in their 50s or whatever, the one thing that they have instead of children is money and toys.
I mean,
I got plenty of toys.
Yeah.
Break out the Lego.
I don't, but I will.
Childless man wants to just travel the world with me, blaspheming and having, really good sex. That would be fantastic.
People are asking like, why is the childless family, why does a couple need a 3-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house? Like, Lego?
Guests?
Well, in the case of the primary couple that I'm thinking of, they both needed separate offices.
Yeah, absolutely.
but the real toys was when you got into the garage, and there's two custom motorcycles and a supercharged Corvette.
Definitely more expensive.
That sounds
than
wonderful. I mean, wouldn't you rather have like a sex dungeon instead of a kid's bedroom?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be way fun. Way fun.
I can just imagine Tomer in his sex dungeon.
I'm waiting for the day when I can when I'm actually living alone and I can actually afford bondage furniture. That'd be great.
And in America, with
that's
the state
just
of
expensive.
healthcare, it could double up as an emergency room. So
Yeah.
depends on what you're into, but
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, if you've got, you can adapt things though. If you thrift some well-made things, and then you just adapt hooks and things for cuffs. You can. If you got a little know-how.
I mean, I've went to houses where they have shibari poles at the ceiling. It was cool.
There was a
that better
mistress
be well
I knew,
anchored.
Yeah, shibari
professional
bamboos.
dominatrix, and we went to her house for dinner party or whatever, and it was an old Victorian school building that had been redeveloped into housing, and so her living room was an old classroom, but it also had all the hooks and stuff in the ceiling and stuff, a whole big frame.
There are many things you can hang from hooks that are correctly
High ceilings
anchored
are great.
into the actual beams. You can have those nice chairs that hang the netting chairs. You can have swings. You can have sex swings, but you have a punching
both. You
bag
can
for
switch them
emotional
out.
regulation or any other number of things.
As much as I enjoy the conversation, Aaron, we have another chatter.
All right, so I'm sorry, I'm just remembering another childless couple in Austin that I went to go stay with, and they said, here's the guest room, and the guest room had a swing with ankle manacles attached to it.
Nice, good for them.
Safety first.
Safety first, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jojo Freelancer KUP says, "Oh, I wonder who wrote the book of Job?"
Jesus. Next question.
Yeah, God through the Holy Spirit. No,
I mean, actually, the Talmud attributed to Moses. So.
But it was
Seriously?
Yes, Bava Batra 14b.
That is the most
written way
ridiculous.
later. Go watch your first episode on Job.
And then the spam goes here, says, "You mean Tomer isn't in his dungeon right now?" I can see the leathers. I can see the leather straps on the wall behind him.
That's coming off of his guitars. He's in his dungeon, just not his sex dungeon.
I mean, it's not really leather.
Don't destroy people's fantasies, Tomer. All right, so are we moving on then to...
No, we are not moving on!
You got to get past this, Tomer.
No, I don't. It's my life. I'm dedicated to this craft. Okay, 13 through 14. Habel comments, quote, Job's portrayal of the inviting land of the dead represents a desperate reversal of traditional understandings of the unhappy domain. Sheol, spelled gloom, darkness, and forgetfulness, in Psalms 88, 11 through 13. Job himself characterizes the underworld as a place of gloom, Ophel, darkness, Choshech, and death's shadow, Talmavet 10, 21 through 22. These are the very forces he summoned to curse the day of his birth. The world of those same forces he now paints in glowing terms as appealing and comfortable. He knew the ugly side of Sheol, where one embraces the pit as father and maggots as mother, 17:12 through 16. Yet he prefers a home with such parents than continued existence on earth. In that gloomy but beckoning land, Job expects to find kings and princes, rulers and their counselors. The tradition that kings and heroes have a continued shadowy existence in Sheol is reflected in Isaiah 14, 9 through 11, where past rulers rise from their thrones to taunt the king of Babylon when he arrives in the underworld. He's meeting with the maggots of Sheol in his ultimate downfall. The grand achievements of these rulers may have been reduced to mere ruins, but for Job, their end is preferable to their glories in life.
Wait, they had maggots and back then? Or was it like make...
Make Assyria great again.
Yeah, that worked.
Oh, I see. I get it now.
Oh, I totally thought of that joke too. But I can't say that he thought their death, that seems a bit absurd to think that, it's better to be dead and in the grave than have all the glories of the kings that, they had in life, but rather that in the sense death is the great equalizer and we're all at peace there, if not necessarily happy, and peace is better than misery.
All right. What are we doing now, Tomer?
Reading more commentary, 17 through 18. Hartley comments, quote, returning to his theme that there is complete rest for the weary in Sheol, Job believes that here all those who are accustomed to stirring up trouble are quiet. Everybody is in the same powerless, limp condition. Although there may be degrees of punishment in the afterlife, the earthly social structure that allows one to lord it over others, or a taskmaster to beat his slaves into doing his bidding, no longer exists. In Sheol there is no turmoil, roges, to make one wary, not even for the wicked, reshaim. The Hebrew root roges represents strong emotional agitation. It describes the consternation that a terrible ruler causes throughout the earth, as we see in Isaiah 14:16, and the dreadful panic that a display of God's anger arouses among the populace, Joel 2:11. The wicked are noted for stirring up trouble and creating social havoc as they increase their wealth at the expense of others. In turn, their lives are marked by turbulence. Full of apprehension, they explode in anger at any who would challenge them, but in Sheol their turmoil ceases. On 22, Clines comments, quote, those submerged in the troubles of life do not succeed in reaching their goal of the grave, but must endure their unhappy lot. Suicide is evidently out of the question, as we see in 3:20-26, I guess. They have no opportunity to, quote, take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them, end quote. Hamlet 3:159-60, I like that. So they did not in fact rejoice, as we see in RSV and NAB, but would rejoice, according to Moffat, or would exult, according to Gordis. Behind this potent image of yearning for death there, perhaps still lies that of the treasure seekers, who are themselves in many cases grave robbers, who are overjoyed to reach the tomb where buried treasure lies. In the same way, the troubled would rejoice, quote, to the point of jubilation, end quote, according to Dorm, if they could attain matzah, the grave. Quote, their vain longing for the restfulness of death, which is never met, only makes their torment the keener, and that in turn quickens their yearning, end quote, according to Forer.
Yes, suicide is painless. It brings on many changes, and I can take or leave it if I please.
If I try. Yeah. Someone watched MASH.
And finally, 24, Seow comments, the meaning of the complaint in verse 24 is not clear. The Masoretic pointing suggests that Job's sighing comes before his food. A plausible interpretation is proffered in a 12th century manuscript illumination that shows Job sitting before a table bearing food like the unpalatable fare shown elsewhere in the same manuscript illustrations of 6, 6, and 7. And Peter, can you please show the image? So this is the illustration. It's in Biblioteca Vaticana, Rome, GR 1231, folio 109 V, 12th century. And he continues, according to this interpretation, food is a metaphor for the experience of life. Compare Psalms 42:4, which is 3 in the Old Testament, and 86, which is 5 in the Old Testament, thus recalling the stuff that is bitter to the throat in verse 20b. Grief is characterized in the parallel line, however, as roarings poured out like the waters, a loaded metaphor, since the language is reminiscent of mythological references to the containment of the unruly waters of the cosmos, as we'll see in Exodus 15:10, Psalms 29:3, 32:6, 93:4, Isaiah 17:12-13, and 43:16. In light of the probable allusion to divine confinement, indeed the confinement of the unruly waters, Job's comparison of his outcry to that of the waters sounds a defined note. God may have shut him, in verse 23b, but as a divine warrior might confine the forces of chaos. But Job's waters, quote unquote, will still pour out like the waters, verse 24. And you can remove the picture.
Hey, where'd the picture go? Donde está la biblioteca?
I was gonna say that's a weird shaped fish that Jonah was sitting in there.
Yeah.
And no one's going to ask why he's naked while eating. And that was the thing that confused
isn't
me.
he naked at this point, or maybe wearing?
Who is it supposed to be? I don't know.
That's Job.
That's Job.
No, it's Job. Okay. Yeah, they put the thing around his head like he's a saint or something.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that's from a 12th century Christian manuscript.
Right, but I
So
didn't know
he
they
is a
did-
saint, or sort
Oh,
of.
okay. I didn't know that. I love the history of like halos, how they started out as just like a circle behind the head, and then they kind of made them float, and then they turned them on their side and made them into rings, and like you can actually see like statues from like the Middle Ages that are where they're like a solid circle behind the head, like
Yeah,
attached
it's
to
just
the
supposed to
statue.
be like a representative of an aura of godly light around them.
And they just like, yeah, it's interesting how they like turned into these little like rings above the head.
Yeah.
Are we not going to talk about how it looks like he's sitting on a dung heap?
I mean, that is
Dung heap.
textually accurate. So
That's a DIY chair.
Okay, so ancient Christians. So we have a lots here. So Ishodat says that in these words spoken by Job during his despair, the father saw many. Actually, it's not Ishodat; it's general. The father saw many allegorical meanings that could appear as a moral warnings to Christians. So Ishodat says that first, they instruct us to avoid offending God, even when despair understandably overwhelms us.
at least he has some sympathy for the man.
Yeah. Hezekiah and Ephraim said that Job's words also remind us of our condition as fallen creatures before our redemption in Christ. Olympiodorus and Julian of Eclanum said that the darkness invoked by Job symbolizes the condemnation of sin. And Gregory and Philip said that and its judgment before God. The darkness symbolizes the judgment before God. And Chrysostom said that Job's words also foreshadow the condemnation of Judas as it was pronounced by Jesus.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. He writes...
Foreshadows means reminds me of, right?
I mean,
Yes.
that's what he writes. So do not be amazed when I tell you that Job did not speak these words. I mistake him for another. These are words that I lent to Job and are contrary to his benevolence and profound goodness. In fact, Job had no desire to say anything of the sort. He suffered righteously what he was suffering, so that he reasonably and wisely said that he was not born. This is exactly what Christ himself said about Judas. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. Matthew 26:24. And Job says much the same thing.
Right. So Job would never have cursed the day of his birth. I just made him do this because I needed it to foreshadow the guy I'm going to curse in a couple millennia when I come down to sacrifice myself to myself, because my BDSM kink is really, really strong, but it needs to be your fault.
I always find the hate on Judas is like a bit
I know.
sus.
He's necessary
he's
to the
needed
plot.
Yeah.
I really liked Jesus Christ Superstar when they did the movie. I think it was in '72. I liked the Judas character. I love the way that they portrayed him. You know, he's not a villain. He has a clear mission, and he realizes he's working for somebody that's throwing away the opportunity, who's making really bad decisions. We could really be helping people right now. Jesus, what the fuck are you doing? that brilliant character.
Fair point. Fair
Yeah,
point.
Jesus cheated on him with that beloved disciple or whatever.
Oh
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
hell of
the
a
thing about
polycule.
the thing about Judas, right, is like, yeah, you're totally right that he's kind of necessary to salvation, even. So, like, there are texts that are very pro Judas.
Yeah.
Is it simply because his name, Judah, is like the Jewish people?
It's honestly hard to say. I know that's what Elaine Pagels argues, but
Mm.
I'm not fully convinced on that.
Yeah.
It's more likely that he was called Judah because
Well,
he's a
like
bad
I
character.
mean, like, you know, when it comes to like historicity, like
Mm.
I don't fucking know, but like there might be some of that, but it also, I mean, like you would also have to apply, you know, uh, some of the same thinking to the names of the other apostles as well, and it doesn't come out with that much substance. So like so I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that Judas by some early Christian sects was viewed positively, specifically because you needed him for salvation.
I have sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have more Christians.
Well,
So
you should take something for that.
yeah, I try. So the fathers see a source of moral instruction in the second half of Job's speech as well. Hezekiah and Gregory say that death is a departure from an impure world and a deliverance from pain. Chrysostom said that humility is an essential virtue of the righteous. Chrysostom and Ishadat said that death is as useful as life and must not be regarded as a calamity, but as a gain. Julian of Eclanum said that an affliction that goes beyond the limits of human nature authorizes anyone to express grief. And Didymus said that Job's words also reveal his willingness to fight in the struggle of the righteous against the opposing powers of evil.
Hey, is that your last,
Yes.
Christian?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have another show to do immediately after this. So can we get Job 4, 21 verses done in, say, 45 minutes?
I can try.
Yeah. Well, I can, or unless you wanted to read it, Arn.
I'm fine reading it, unless you want to.
Okay. No. It's cool. It's cool. You can go ahead.
Okay. Then Eliphaz, the Temanite, answered, "If one ventures a word with you, will you be offended? But who can keep from speaking? See, you have instructed many, you have strengthened the weak hands. Your words have supported those who were stumbling, and you have made firm the feeble knees. But now it has come to you, and you are impatient. It touches you, and you are dismayed. It is not your fear of God. It is not your fear of God your confidence, and the integrity of your ways your hope. Think now, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, for the whelps of the lioness are scattered, and the whelps of the lioness are scattered. Now, a word came stealing to me. My ear received the whisper of it, amid thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on mortals. Dread came upon me and trembling, which made all my bones shake. The spirit glided past my face. The hair of my face bristled. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice. Can mortals be righteous before God? Can humans be pure before their Maker? Even in his servants he put no trust. and his angels he charges with error. How much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundation is the dust, who are crushed like a moth? Between morning and evening they are destroyed. They perish forever without any regarding it. Their tent cord is plucked up with them, and they die devoid of wisdom. Kind of liked that. It had a good feel to it.
Yeah. So this is but this is part of Eldad's, what's the name again? Eliphaz's response to Job, which continues in chapter 5 as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Yes. Usually Lawrence has something to say about this.
I mean, right now I do not. I'm actually trying to pull something else up.
So do you want me to start a commentary?
Yeah, I mean, as the atheist commentator said, we're doing a rush job now.
Okay, so I'll start with verse 1. I mean, basically, but the entire commentary is just commentator's quotation. So, on verse 1, Hartley comments, quote, "Being the first to speak, Eliphaz is definitely the most prominent and eloquent statesman of the three comforters. This view of his status is further supported by the fact that in each cycle his speeches are significantly longer than those of the other comforters. He is also the most articulate of the three friends. His rhetoric is filled with a wide variety of forms, for example, proverbs, parables, analogies, precepts, exhortations, wisdom sayings, hymns, and a vision report. With all these rhetorical devices, he argues convincingly for the orthodox understanding of suffering as retribution for wrongdoing, and adds greater authority to his teaching. Eliphaz's central premise is that everyone is guilty of error. From this premise, he derives two basic arguments. First, he boldly articulates the law of retribution, i.e., that the righteous prosper and the wicked suffer hardship in this life and face a premature death. Second, he lauds God's greatness and his compassionate care in delivering his own from sorrow, 5:9-26. Loss and suffering are not a final tragedy, for God will rescue anyone who is repentant from their grip, and he will bestow an abundance of blessings. Therefore, misfortune presents an opportunity for the afflicted to discover hidden errors and to seek God's compassion through contrition."
I call bullshit. If that were the case, Henry Kissinger wouldn't have died when he did. And I do hope that somewhere there is an afterlife where Anthony Bourdain waits for his soul with a spiked baseball bat.
Okay, of 3 and 4, Habel comments, quote, "The role which Eliphaz now assumes is one which Job had played in better times. His wise word of counsel had been salutary for those in need. Job characterizes himself as a sagacious and righteous leader in the city gate, 29 verse 2 and 7 forward. In wisdom contexts, yasar implies corrective or disciplinary instruction, especially that of a father administered to his son, as was in Proverbs 19:18 and 29:17. Those in need of correction are here described as people who have tottering knees and who, therefore, have stumbled, kashal. This verb in wisdom contexts, for example, Proverbs 4 verses 12, 16, and 19, implies a downfall caused by stumbling from the correct way. Physical faltering and frailty are metaphors here for wavering on the path of wisdom. Compare Proverbs 4:10 forward. Restoration to this way requires fitting instruction, which in verse 4 is designated milah. This term occurs frequently in Job, with a wide range of meanings, such as argument, message, and word. In verses 2 and 4, message seems to reflect the intent of the author. The previous activities of Job as counselor provide a common ground of experience which justifies Eliphaz's own attempt to speak a comforting message, quote-unquote, for Job, comparable to the good word he had often spoken to his own community.
Yes, the good word. God's just beating you because you did something wrong. Just figure out what it is and grovel hard enough and everything will be fine.
On verse 6, Clines comments, quote, Eliphaz speaks as the representative of a broad consensus in the wisdom tradition. The fear of God is the principal part of wisdom, as we see in Proverbs 1:7, i.e., it is the chief requirement for anyone who would live well and long, since life is the aim of wisdom. Reverent piety ensures confidence and security, but the essence of this piety of the wisdom teachers is, as Dom vigorously argued, the behavior of humans themselves. While elsewhere in Hebrew religion the initiative lies primarily with God, in the wisdom tradition religion is seen essentially as adherence to divine prescriptions for life. Whoever carries out these regulations has integrity of way, quote-unquote, and is correct, in Hebrew, tam. God's role is to establish the standards, to react to obedience or disobedience appropriately, and to ensure the ultimately unfailing consequences of right behavior. So the God-fearing may be encouraged through thick and thin to have confidence in their piety. Implicitly, Terrien writes, Eliphaz subscribes to the thesis of salvation by works. To say that today, however, is to put Eliphaz in the wrong. We must ask what else any of the friends or Job himself could have affirmed. To have denied Eliphaz's theology would have been to suggest that moral struggle is a waste or that God is essentially unjust.
And I so disagree with the fear of God being the way of wisdom. It's just it's a fundamental philosophical error, in my opinion.
Admittedly, and to give some credit, the type of fear that those with half a brain are talking about is not fear as in the groveling fear of a child before an angry, abusive parent, although that is what it turns into most of the time. It's more of as you would fear the sea and be in awe of it. There are animals, there are forces beyond our power in nature that we are in awe of, and there's a kind of a healthy fear, like a respect, like lightning, very powerful. You're not going to stand out there with an umbrella during a lightning storm because you know what happens if you do. It doesn't mean that you're afraid of it as though it's personally coming for you, but yeah, there's like a healthy respect for powerful natural forces, which I don't know if it's the beginning of wisdom, but it's definitely necessary for any degree of common sense.
Okay, on 10 and 11, Seow comments, quote, the innuendos continue in Eliphaz's sudden allusion to the roar of a lion. The term roar, sha'agat, echoing Job's reference to his roarings, sha'agat, that are poured out in 324. Job meant his anguished cries, though he dared to compare it to the defined roarings of the cosmic waters that, according to mythology, posed a challenge to God. Eliphaz now picks up on the notion of the defined roarings to speak of the roar of lions. Like a consummate wisdom teacher, he draws lessons from the natural world, using analogies from both flora and fauna. Indeed, his lists of lions sounds like the onomastica that are characteristic of ancient Near Eastern wisdom traditions. These lists, drawn from nature, are the ancient equivalent of modern scientific databases from which one may draw conclusions about life. Here in Eliphaz's speech is a list that a zoological expert might provide, and the categorical differences among all these different types of lions are beyond the ken of ordinary folk. The point seems clear. The most terrible predators, proud kings of beasts, are not in control of their destinies, despite their fierce roarings. They are indeed pitifully vulnerable. They are defanged, perish from lack of proper food, and are isolated from those who might protect them. On 12 through 13, Habel comments, quote, the counseling word, dabal, which Eliphaz promises to speak to Job, is now unveiled as something approximating an oracular word rather than a traditional wisdom formula. The prophets experienced the word in unequivocal terms. It was placed directly in their mouths as an oracle for public proclamation, as we see in Jeremiah 1:4-9, 2:1, Ezekiel 2:1-3:3. Those who graced the council of heaven themselves heard the message of Yahweh in Jeremiah 23:18-22, and were commissioned from his presence, Isaiah 6:1-8. For Eliphaz, the word steals in through the back door. It is furtive, indistinct, and faint. Its origin and author are unknown. It is simply identified as a word, a passing sound, a noise in the night. Eliphaz, as a patriarchal seer, experiences this elusive word as a deep sleep, taldema, and a nightmare or trauma, she'ipim. Taldema may connote total unconsciousness, as we see in Genesis 2:21 and 1 Samuel 26:12. Stupefaction, as we see in Isaiah 29:10, Isaiah 29:10 and Proverbs 19:15, or a terrifying dream, Genesis 15:12 and Job 33:15, and is therefore hardly a traditional prophetic vehicle for revelations of the word. Se'ipim is generally recognized as synonymous with sar'apim, as we see in Psalms 94:19 and 139:23, and usually rendered disturbing thoughts. Such thoughts in a night vision are apparently equivalent to nightmares or traumas. Thus, the poet portrays Eliphaz's oracular communication in terms outside the traditional language of the prophets and priests of Israel. The closest analogy seems to be the visionary experience of Abraham in Genesis 15:12, in which he is confronted by a mysterious dread during a taldema in the darkness of night.
This seems very much a reference to this idea that dreams are prophecies, or at least can be prophecies, prophetic signs and words from God. And I mean, I suppose Freud and Jung both argued they could be expressions of your psyche, which is a little more reasonable. But it's, yeah, the idea that this is almost like a prophetic word from him is, well, it's an interpretation. I don't know. It's not really what's
I think it's Balaam also receives a message in a dream, right? It seems to be like a implication, like, oh, these prophets, they were close to God, they spoke to him, face to face, or through a bush or whatever, and like these guys, they're further away, they only get dreams and visions at night or something like that.
Yeah, and then you have to interpret the portents, and the more skillfully you do that, the more money you get as a prophet.
And then God doesn't speak to everybody in audible ways. Instead, if a grasshopper lands on the side of the well, then you'll just take that as a sign.
I do like that in Targum on verse 11 it reads, as the lion perishes for lack of prey, so will Ishmael perish for lack of virtue, and his sons are robbers who have separated themselves from straight paths.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Okay, verse 16, Clines comments, quote, the figure that Eliphaz saw was unrecognizable. In Hebrew, lo akir mar'ehu. I did not recognize its or his face or appearance. This is no doubt because we are meant to suspect that the form, tmuna, and the appearance, mar'eh, are those of God himself. Strikingly, tmuna always refers to God or to some representation of God. In Numbers 12:8, Yahweh says that with Moses he speaks, quote, mouth to mouth, clearly, and not in dark speech. And he beholds the form of Yahweh, in Hebrew, tmunat Yehovah, end quote. This is a privilege reserved to Moses. Israel at Horeb, quote, heard the sounds of words but saw no form, tmuna, there was only a voice, end quote, Deuteronomy 4:12. In Psalm 17:15, the form of Yahweh is parallel with his face, in Hebrew, panim. Elsewhere, tmuna refers to representations of God, as we see in Exodus 24, Deuteronomy 4, verses 16, 23, and 25, and 5:8. Thus, Eliphaz is claiming that he has both seen and heard God. It is not surprising that he couches his report in cryptic language, nor that some of the earliest translations negated the sentence, such as Septuagint, there was no shape before my eyes, in Peshitta, there was nothing to see before my eyes.
Got a comment from Jamie Wells 777, who says, "What are you knitting, Lilith?"
Oh, I'm crocheting actually. It's a shawl. I had to go back and do parts of it again because there was a miscount on one of the patterns. It's fine. I'll show you guys when I'm done.
Okay. And then Jojo Freelance KUP says, "How do we know that the Book of Job or any book is canon? Who has the authority to include the Book of Job as canon? And is there justification in the book like how the Quran does?"
Okay, so the question of how do we know that the Book of Job or any other book is canon? It's in canons right now. What?
Is because some guy said so?
No, because it's in canon right now, so we know that it is canon. So, okay, that's number one. But whether or not something should be included as canon is a different story, or how something came to be included as canon. Job specifically never really had any pushback. Plenty of books did. I think the only one that had any pushback for it was Theodore of Mopsuestia, who was the teacher of Nestorius. So if you look up the Nestorian controversy, but it was generally accepted. No one really had an issue with it, and yes, there were always like some ideas about who wrote it and stuff like that. But the canonization process is a very long one. It's not really a question of who canonized something. It's more so of like how was something canonized. It was essentially, in very simple terms, a popularity contest. It wasn't necessarily a vote like some people think it was. It was just, here are a bunch of churches and synagogues and in many places around the world, and each of them agree on a certain set of scriptures, and then there is some disagreement about some books, which is partially how you get the apocryphal texts, which, while initially being published with even Protestant Bibles, were always viewed with like some kind of hesitancy, but they were always like in their own section. They're like, we're not sure about like whether or not to take these as scripture. So the thing that we have to remember is it was an entirely organic process of canonization until you have far later councils. I'm talking Council of Trent here, where they actually decide like these are the official books for our faith. No more, no less. You have other councils talking about it before, but they were mostly synods, so they were like regional. And
they were debating. They were definitely debating.
They were debating about some things, sure. And I actually, one of my upcoming videos is about the Synod of Rome in 382, and kind of like a mythos that's been attached to it. So there's very rarely like internal justification for like what should and should not be canon. It was mostly just a very organic popularity contest, where like if most people agree that something should be canon, it would eventually become canon. Books like First Enoch, for example, it is in the Ethiopian canon. They actually have an 81 book canon, by the way. So they include a lot more. They include books of Maccabees that are not our books of Maccabees that we would read. They're entirely different books of Maccabees. So for First Enoch, for example, Tertullian argued that it should be in canon because the Epistle of Jude actually cites it as if it were canon. So that would be one way of doing it. Like if they have the same kind of canon citation, like as it is written or something like that. That's how it's usually translated. If they do it that way, then it should be accepted as canon. That's one way of doing it. But yeah, I would still recommend Lee Martin McDonald's book, The Biblical Canon, for like the full thing.
I think it's important to point out, though, that the arguments made by the people who were deciding or arguing for the canon themselves would have been based in the idea that there were signs of authenticity within the text. What it really worked out to was whether or not the text supported their own theological position. But they may not necessarily have been conscious that that was what they were doing. That it was, basically, what is it called? A Texas bullseye?
I think that would be it. Yeah, that's where you throw the dart first and then draw the bullseye around.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this process happens very unconsciously in theology, but it definitely does happen. And they'll say, since we know that Jesus is divine, or since we know that blah, 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 then this obviously cannot have been an authentic word of God because it doesn't say what I believe. The amount of that goes on in the interpretation of Scripture even now is astounding. It's just astounding. But that's, I think, the series of justifications that Muslim imams would give for internal justification, it would be a different criteria, obviously, but probably subject to the same mental processes.
Yeah, I mean, with regard to the Quran, you could look at the Quran as a source on what the canon was at the time, because Muslims kind of, whoever wrote the Quran was using existing stories.
Yeah.
Oh, very
And
much.
so the fact that they saw the story of Job or Jonah or whatever important enough to put it into the Quran, together with Moses and Abraham or whatever, shows that they were picking. They wasn't a kind of canon that existed at the time that they were looking at.
Yeah.
Whatever was the accepted
they had heard a bunch of stories.
scripture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily that it was accepted. It's just stuff that that Muhammad would have heard.
Right. Because obviously there are definitely stories in the Quran that are not in any canon. Yeah. They're in Apocrypha or even Hadith. In the Talmud.
Well, I mean, no, Hadith is later, but for example, like the Quran cites, well, I shouldn't say cites, that'd be a wrong way of putting it.
Yeah.
But it certainly references the infancy gospels, for example, both the infancy gospel of James and the infancy gospel of Thomas. So they're both like there are stories that are pulled from each of those texts, and those are not canon for any major Christian sect.
That's true. Though they do have some cool stories, they're also kind of,
Yeah, they also have a story about Cain in there that we don't know where the fuck it comes from. We have no idea.
There's the story of Joseph that's pulled straight from like the Talmud, or maybe it could have been in another book, like an Agadah or something like that, like a Jewish fan fiction sort of thing. That's not in the Bible, but it's in the Quran, and it's not original to the Quran. It's
no, it's
but it's interesting. So yeah, I guess you can't really use the Quran as a good source for what was accepted as canon in the 600s.
Yeah, so because Muhammad doesn't cite anything, because he doesn't quote anything, like I don't think he was like reading these things like as like a full word.
Well, he pretends it's all original, but yeah, he would have been hearing.
It's supposed to be
he would have been here. I think he was just hearing
the uncorrupted original version in a sense.
Right. Yeah. That's the apologetic for it.
Sure, Dan.
Yeah. Or at least like there is an idea of like there is an original uncorrupted New Testament and Old Testament, which are separate books which were lost, and then the Quran is like not necessarily referencing them, but kind of agreeing with what they would have said.
Then Jamie Wells 777 offers $10, thank you, and says, "I absolutely love our community here, and here is some money for Aaron to help pay for his badass new bike."
Aww.
Hey.
I also have a channel that allows super chats.
Well, you'll just have to have us all over there.
But you don't have a bike, Lawrence.
I don't have a bike. That is
See?
true.
Okay, I'll continue on verse 17. So comments, quote, "Many translators follow Vulgate and Targum in assuming that the question is whether or not mortals can be more righteous than God, as we see in KJV and NEB. Others follow Septuagint and Peshitta in suggesting that the issue is whether or not humans can be righteous before God, as we see in NRSV and REB, or whether or not mortals can be exonerated by God, NJPS. Syntactically, one may take the mem to indicate a comparison of exclusion, where, quote, "the subject alone possesses the quality connoted by the adjective or stative verb, to the exclusion of the thing compared," end quote, according to Waltke and O'Connor. So NAB, quote, "can a man be righteous as against God," end quote. Yet Job never claimed moral superiority to God. Whitekettle contends that the question is hyperbolic and for purely rhetorical effect. Of course, neither Eliphaz nor Job believes that any human can be more righteous than God. The view of the Septuagint and Peshitta is supported by analogous use of the mem elsewhere. So, al tzadko nafsho me Elohim, against this justifying himself before God in 32:2, vehitem nekiyim Yehovah, and you shall be innocent before God in Numbers 32:22. I am not guilty before my God in Psalms 18:22, which is 21 in the Old Testament. This view is corroborated by 15:14-16, which speak of rightness in God's sight, in Hebrew be'eino. On verse 19, Hartley comments, quote, "The consequences of this dogma for humanity are further developed. This strophe opens with af, which may mean how much more or how much less. The former meaning is preferred since the argument moves from a given truth to the assured implications, from the heavenly to the earthly. If God does not have complete confidence in the heavenly creatures, who are free from earthly restrictions, surely he cannot trust human beings, who are greatly handicapped in that they dwell in houses of clay, in Ibu Chomer. Such structures are even weaker in that their foundations are in dust. Clay and dust symbolize the weaknesses and limitations of the human body. These kinds of houses are crushed by a moth. While the moth, Ash, is famous for devouring garments, none is known to devour houses. Hakham has suggested that there was an insect similar to a moth, also called Ash, which was known to devastate houses of clay by devouring the straw of the bricks."
And then there's Mothra. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mothman.
That was what I was thinking of too.
And finally, 20-21, Habel comments, quote, "Humans are not only impure creations, but vulnerable beings. At any moment, their ephemeral existence may be terminated without their knowing wisdom or perpetuating their name." Compare Psalms 95 forward. To be stripped of a name is to enjoy no enduring future, as we see in Deuteronomy 25:6. Not to know wisdom is to be deprived of the greatest gift of life, Proverbs 3:18. Both name and wisdom are symbols pointing to a deeper dimension of life than normal existence, as we see in Genesis 11:4, 12:2, Proverbs 3:13-18. Job 2 explores the theme of human transitoriness, and the tragedy of no eternal life in chapter 14. For Eliphaz, Job's plight is typical of humans who experience the vagaries of existence. A greater tragedy would be to die without gaining wisdom from the experience, in spite of Eliphaz's astute counsel. Vagaries.
Yes, so astute.
Now, the Christians. So, in this initial speech of Eliphaz, the fathers recognize an ambiguous and reproachful attitude on the part of Job's friends and underline how their words have in themselves a part of truth that can be used as a starting point for moral issues and discussions. This kind of approach is constant in all Christian commentators on Job, whether of the Greek, Latin, or Syriac fathers. For example, Chrysostom, Didymus, and Julian of the Eclanum, and Gregory said that, on the one hand, it is clearly asserted that Eliphaz blames and condemns Job as a sinner who is suffering because of his guilt. But Ephraim said that, on the other, it is emphasized how his words can be interpreted as a sincere invitation to patience. Ishodat adds a warning against the arrogant, and Chrysostom adds, and an acknowledgement of the natural power with which the righteous is endowed. Chrysostom said that Job is blameless and there is no ground for any accusation against him. Gregory said that the words of Eliphaz, even though they reproach Job, can be interpreted allegorically and provide us with moral instruction. Ishodat said that they also show us the limited and imperfect perception of God that human beings can attain. And Hesychius and Didymus said that, and our weakness and powerfulness before God, who can see every sin, according to Olympiodorus. There, I'm done.
Okay. And now Jamie Wells 777 says, Lawrence, I got you, buddy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, and it is too bad about you not having a bike, but I understand. You're in Milwaukee. There's a factory.
Yeah, yeah, there is. But also, fuck that.
I think there's a touch more snow in Milwaukee than there is in Texas.
It's 80 degrees again today.
Yeah, in Milwaukee right now.
I don't know what that means in real units.
Warm.
I don't know either, but yeah, it is warm. Yeah. Right now, even in Milwaukee, it's 63. It was 30 degrees a week ago.
It's about 26 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I took one of my boas out to the lake yesterday. I mean, it's good weather for motorcycles and tropical pets.
There you go.
All right, so we're done with this one. When next we meet, we will be talking about Job 5.
Yes. And hey, you know what? Make sure to subscribe to the Behold Network. Behold indeed. I do have a video coming out this week about the Septuagint and the letter of Aristeas, the myth of the 70 translators. And then obviously going to be working on the Synod of Rome in 382, and then back to my big project on Melchizedek. So got some good stuff coming out, and join the Discord. That's where all the cool people are. Even Aaron is technically there.
Yeah, he is there in spirit.
Yeah, he has no idea how to open the app, but he's there.
I can tell you believe in me.
Do we
all right, well, thank you, everyone. If nobody else has any closing comments, then Tomer, take us out.
I do. Don't you have a show to plug, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so at the top of the hour, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be doing another show. Peter, I think, just put the link in the chat. So that is one where some MAGA guy told me that 95% of the information on any of my political videos are lies.
So do we have a
95%, not just false, but lies. And I'm betting that when we have this discussion, it's going to turn out that we have 0% that is even false, much less lies. Because the argument this guy has shared with me in email, it is anti-logic. So
I'm excited for it.
Don't let yourself get mad. Remember, irrational arguments destroy themselves. All you have to do is point to the thing and say, so this piece that's upside down, backwards, and crumbling is the keystone? Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, something like that. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. So
have fun.
I will do. All right. So everybody tune in if you want, because I am really stoked for it. I get people, these idiots accuse me of lying every time I say something they don't agree with. Why can't it be that I don't agree with them? Why can't it be that they're wrong about something? No. Or even that on occasion it happens that I'm wrong about something. That can happen. But why is it always, you're a liar? Why is it always that?
Because they've never considered that they might be wrong about certain things because they're terrified to. So you must be wrong. And if they actually engage with your arguments, they'll have to consider hypothetically that they could be wrong, even though they don't really have to consider that they're wrong.
Yeah, this guy said that we were just going to have to agree to disagree. I'm like, we're talking about matters of verifiable fact.
Yeah.
There is no agree to disagree. You're just wrong.
We can agree to disagree on which is the best cookie.
Yeah.
Or how pineapple absolutely belongs on pizza.
Aren't these people? These people follow the most intelligent man in the United States, a man that has never made a mistake, has never been wrong about anything.
Oh,
a very stable genius.
Yes.
Okay.
What's this new thing about Trump being submissive to Clinton or something?
Yeah, apparently he blew Clinton in the Epstein, which I'm not surprised. I mean, I presume he was high. I don't know if he's ever not been high in the past 50 years.
There was a time when the Clintons and Trump were buddy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perhaps too close.
Definitely too close. So you see that
Yeah.
one picture where he went to grab Bill by the
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think it's very
Lady doll.
It's very typical actually of the kind of men that follow Trump, who are just deeply insecure, very, very angry about the fact that they are insecure, totally unwilling to look at their insecurities and deal with them like a grown-ass adult, but instead blame everyone else and rage and scream and have tantrums, when in reality, clearly a lot of them just want male approval.
Yeah. All right. So check out that other show. As I said, about 20 minutes, 19 minutes now.
All right.
Thank you all, and see you next week.
See you next week. Have fun.